Let's take a look at the behavior of the Romans. Is there a mammal that is acting in the same way? Have you ever seen one wolf leading thousands of wolves and attacking some territory? Or a king rat? A gigantic bear leading his troops into enemy territory? I don't think so. The only place I see this kind of behavior is in the insect world. The black ants attacking the red ants, slaying their enemy, looting their nests, bringing back the spoils of war to their queen, exterminating without mercy their enemies. So I thought, let's think insect and observe humanity and history. The insect armies of Rome. The Greek insects. Their helmets even remind me of the Greys. The head of a praying mantis, an insect that will frequently pop up in my investigation. A horned one, a winged one, in the Middle Ages they dress like ants and beetles. Okay, you might say, they might have been inspired by insects to design their harnesses. But when you look at Egypt, it starts getting creepier. I was thinking insect and suddenly I started seeing cocoons. The crozier, a larva in a cocoon, an underground nest, the mummy wrapped in silk, the Egyptians were making themselves ready to go to the afterlife. But why are they imitating the birth of an insect? On the sarcophagus you see the image of the winged Isis. Everybody sees them as the wings of a bird. I would make them wings of an insect. Isis, Ishtar, Asherah, the queen of the hive. Let's look again at the cone-headed praying mantis. Isis and Madonna on the Super Bowl. Let's take a look at the ceremony. Madonna arriving with her Greek-Roman insect army. Waving palm tree leaves? No, let's make them insect wings. Sitting on the throne like the queen of the hive. Making ritual moves. So, let's take a look again at the Egyptian image of Isis. Let's take a look again at the sun between the horns. What would that mean? The adoration of the sun. To understand this, I will take this video to another level. I will explain why humanity suddenly started behaving like an insect. Let's have a look in nature if there is a case by which we can explain our strange behavior. Let's watch a short video.
Wasps are often characterized as aggressive and an insect to fear. A recent study reinforces this general perception by exposing them as master manipulators. Researchers in Japan learned that when it comes to the task of wasps nurturing their young, they make another insect do it. Spiders appear to be the preferred caretakers, and to get them to perform the task in a satisfactory fashion, wasps employ the power of mind control. When it's time for a wasp to release its eggs, it will do so on an arachnid's back. In addition to being saddled with the responsibility of hatching the larvae, the spider is injected with a substance that makes it do the wasp's bidding. That involves building the offspring a comfortable home. The preferred nursery is what's called a resting web, the sort of denizen a spider spins for itself when it's molting and doesn't want to be bothered by incoming food. Further, when the newborns get hungry, it uses the host as a nutrition source, feeding on it until it's sucked it dry.
So, the spider normally makes this kind of web. Now it's making this kind of web. The wasp's consciousness has taken over the consciousness of the spider, and now it is using the body of the spider to make a web of its own. Let's take a look at our behavior. We are hunter-gatherers and live in the forest. That provides us of everything we need. Then something happens. Suddenly, like the spider, we start destroying our habitat and start creating a completely new environment. We start living in cells. We start making strange buildings, wiring the whole planet, the World Wide Web, creating the weirdest machines. How is this possible? Let's go back to the bigger Earth in the plasma ball. Think of it as a cell, a nucleolus and a membrane, floating in an unknown substance. In the core of the planet is a black substance, an intelligent liquid, responsible for the script of the planet. Maybe you came across the story of black goo, but I will call it, in comparison with the computer, the BIOS code, the consciousness of our Earth. How does an acorn know it has to become a tree? How does a child know at birth it has to breathe? Think of it as a Wi-Fi connection with the BIOS code of the planet. So, at a certain moment, a cell decides to parasite on the cell of our Earth. It attaches to our cell. Then it drills a hole through the membrane. That would make of our Sun the connection point between the two cells. Now the invasive cell will try to take over the consciousness of the attacked cell. How will it do that? Well, it will shoot some BIOS code of its own onto Earth. Now we have a big problem, because now we have two conflicting codes, and the invasive code will try to destroy the local one. Now let's go back to the beginning of the Egyptian culture. The most important temple in Heliopolis was the mansion of the Benben, also known as the Mansion of the Phoenix. In the middle of the temple, in an open courtyard, stood an obelisk, on top of which sat the Benben stone. This was a black conical stone that looked like a small pyramid. Throughout the ages, the original Benben was copied in different forms. According to the Egyptians, the stone literally fell from the sky. The Benben stone was seen as the solidified seed of Atum, the stone of creation. It was on this stone that the phoenix or Bennu bird would return every 12,594 years and place its new egg. At that moment, a new era of mankind was started. The Bennu bird came from the Isle of Fire, the mythical place where the gods were born. So, let's go back to this picture of the two cells uniting, the Vesica Pisces. Throughout history, this image was used for the iconography of the female genitals. The cosmic vagina, the Virgin Mary. Why the Virgin? Because there was no sexual act. A piece of itself, the Benben stone, was shot into the atmosphere. Next, the Benben stone was called the seed of Atum and put on an obelisk. Now you have the phallus symbol. Next, you put the phallus symbol in the Vesica Pisces and aim it at the sun. So, we are invaded on planetary level, but sadly enough, we are also invaded in our consciousness. In our mind, there was only one voice, the voice of planet Earth. Everything that happened was in favor of the growth of our planet. Organic life was flourishing. But suddenly, another voice pops up in our head. Suddenly, we have duality, good and bad. An evil eye has woken up inside our head. The only purpose of that voice is to kill all organic life. Suddenly, we think of suicide. Suddenly, we think of killing our neighbor for no reason at all. Now we start destroying all life on our planet. The parasite is mimicking our internal voice and is pretending to be us. That way it is hiding from our awareness. How do we get rid of this parasite? Let me tell you the story of Ramana Maharshi. In the summer of 1896, Ramana went into an altered state of consciousness, which had a profound effect on him. He experienced what he understood to be his own death and later returned to life. So, Ramana experienced his own death. I think he experienced the death of the parasite. From that moment, he was in a state of unselfishness. Ramana advised the method of inquiry into the nature of the self by asking the question, "Who am I?" He wants you to ask the question, "Who am I?" I being the ego. That way he asks the parasite, "Who are you?" thereby exposing it and making it to leave. Because of universal law, the parasite needs our consent to stay here. Therefore, it has to lie to us all the time. The moment you see it, the parasite is out. Okay, let's look for the parasite. Not here. Not here. Of course, you will not see the parasite, because it is behind the camera, filming. Okay, so there are two observers watching through the camera. The silent one and the one who is constantly talking. As we are born without a language in our head, the observer who is talking must be the parasite. Now the silent one can observe the noisy one. So we die. Now we got rid of it all, we think. Oops. We got sucked into the tunnel of white light. A winged being is waiting for us. An angel, God, Saint Peter. Funny how all those gods are winged. If I'm correct, this white tunnel is the corridor into the consciousness of the insect cell. The angels are the gatekeepers of the parasite's world, keeping us out. We have to stay in purgatory. No, you are not coming into heaven. You have to go back to earth, because you made some mistakes. You have to reincarnate again. You people are bad. You are sinners. You are destroying your own world. You have to return time and time again. Okay, let's return to the Ben stone and see what Stanley Kubrick has to say about it. Let's return to Egypt for the birth of the Illuminati. Pharaoh Akhenaten decides to get rid of the multiple gods of Egypt and installs the worship of the solar disk, Atum, introducing the first monotheistic religion. The Illuminati are those who are illuminated by the sun. But the priests revolted, and Akhenaten was expelled from Egypt, together with his followers. I think Moses was Akhenaten, and he took the stone with him. Here begins the story of the spreading of the infection. You can follow the trail of bloodshed throughout history. Arriving in Israel, installing the sun cult.
Solomon's temple. We're told about King Solomon's temple. Incidentally, there was no King Solomon. So don't look for King Solomon in history, because there was no King Solomon. That's the word Sol, Om, On. S-O-L is the sun in Latin. In Latin, the word sun is S-O-L, Sol. And in the Hindu priest of the sun, they call the sun Om. Remember the priest of Om? They chant Om. And On is the city of the sun. The Greeks call it Heliopolis. It's called Heliopolis to this day. But the Egyptians, Heliopolis. Heliopolis means the city of the sun. The city of the sun, Heliopolis in Greek, was originally called in the Egyptian On. Look it up in any dictionary.
Arriving in Lebanon, Phoenicians. The Greeks, the Romans. Who was Jesus? Well, I think Jesus was an early Illuminati fighter who saw the danger of the sun cult in Rome. He attacked the banksters, but that might not have been a good idea, because he was betrayed, heavily tortured and crucified. But the Illuminati played a very clever trick. They assimilated him into the sun cult. They invented the story of the resurrection of Christ, like the phoenix. They gave him 12 apostles, like the 12 sun gods of Mount Olympus. They gave him an aura, the sun. They made him a tranny, let him give the sign of Baphomet, welcoming the phoenix. Are you sure you are worshipping the original Jesus? The infection is spreading to Europe. Europeans are colonizing the world. Britain is ruling the waves. The infection in America and Russia.
be back.
Okay, let's recapitulate. A parasitic cell is attaching to our cell. The parasitic cell is shooting some solidified consciousness into our cell. This consciousness is infecting people on our Earth. They are now playing the agenda of the parasite. It is communicating through channeling, and it is pumping its technology into Earth. The parasite is an insect with a hive mind. It is presenting itself in many forms, mainly bird-like, because in this form it is recognizable for organic life forms. When the collective consciousness will collapse, the parasite will take over. Therefore, the invader has to traumatize people. So they will finally give in and accept the arrival of the entity. The Illuminati think when their entity will return, they will be sitting on the right hand of their Lord. What a joke! They will be eaten like all the rest of us. We live or die together. For thousands of years now, they are trying to pull in their entity. But it will not work. Because as long as even one person is resisting, they cannot enter. And I can assure you, I am not going to give in. And I hope you don't. So here is a little exercise for your subconscious mind.